Today I want to show you something that actually changed how I think about finding winning ad angles. Most brands that I speak to hundreds a month, they treat angle testing like some kind of lottery. They come up with a bunch of ideas, so they'll brainstorm in a meeting, they'll watch some competitor ads, and then they spend their own money to find out which ones actually work. So 10 ideas go in, if they're lucky, 1 or 2 come out on the other side. And they call that their testing process. But it's not, it's just an expensive guessing game with extra steps. Now here's the thing, before you spend one single dollar on ad production, the market has already told you which angles work. So thousands of brands have already run the experiment. Some lost money, some of them actually found something that worked really well and then scaled it to tens of thousands a day in meta spend. Now this spend in history, that's data, and if you know how to read it, you can walk into creative production with a list of angles that you already know the market has validated before you shot a single second of footage. Now this is exactly what I want to walk you through today. Now let me explain why most angle ideation is broken, including the way that most agencies do it as well. So the standard process, and you might have experienced this as well, it goes a little bit like this. So you sit down with your team or your creative strategist and you brainstorm. You think about your customer, you think about what problems they have, you look at your reviews, you maybe scroll ad library for a bit, and you come up with a list of angles and a list of concepts and some customer data that you think could work. Then you produce ads around those angles and then you go ahead and test them. So the problem isn't the angles themselves. The problem is the source. So you generated them from your own head or from surface level research without any real data or signal from the market about what they're actually going to respond to. The biggest distinction that matters here when it comes to creative research is there's a difference between an angle that makes sense and an angle that actually converts. So plenty of angles make a lot of sense in your head and they sound like they work, but your product solves a real problem. The angle describes that problem accurately and the logic is sound, but it still doesn't convert because the market doesn't respond to logic, it responds to specific framing, the specific emotional trigger, and the specific way a problem is described. And the only way to know which framing actually triggers a response is someone has to spend money on it. Either you spend money figuring it out, or you find a way to read what other clients have already spent. So this is the main tool that most brands use for their competitive research when it comes to meta ads. And the problem with this ad library, the ads aren't there. You can see every single ad inside the ad account, and you can even see how long it was active for now, which is a new update on Meta. The problem is that you have no idea on the actual performance of these ads, because just because an ad was running for long doesn't necessarily mean it was getting a good return on ad spend or a good CPA. Because realistically, an ad that's spending $50 a day at 0.7 ROAS looks identical to an ad that's spending $5,000 a day at 3 ROAS. They both just show up as active and you have no idea. So for example, if you were actually scrolling through ads library, you think, okay, an ad looks great, this must be working, but realistically, you've got no idea and you might actually just be copying a losing ad. So what you actually want to know is where brands are really putting their actual money, because the real money is the signal. If a brand is spending thousands of dollars a day on an ad that's been running for 6 weeks, they didn't keep it running out of stubbornness, it's converting. So that has market validation because it's ran for a long amount of time and they're also spending behind it. So that's the kind of combination that you need. So that's a starting point for finding ads that actually convert. Now I want to run you through a tool that's going to allow you to actually do this. And before I show you, I want to explain the actual concept behind it, because this is what a lot of people miss. When a brand is spending heavily on a specific ad, that's a data point about the market. So it means that that angle in that ad, the specific way it frames the problem, the specific desire that it's hitting, the objection that it's addressing is resonating with enough people to justify continued spend. So that's really why we look at the spend. So that's not 100% guaranteed, because there are poorly run ad accounts that keep spending on losing ads out of inertia and they can't help it. But when you see multiple brands across a niche all putting significant spend behind ads that use a similar angle, that's not a coincidence. That's a market actually telling you something. So the question now becomes, how do you see which angles have that level of spend behind them across your entire niche in real time? So this tool is Trend Track, and the reason that I actually use it is for the specific job that it shows me ad spend that the ad library doesn't. So let me show you how you can actually think about this and use this. So really using spend data to find validated angles. So what you want to do first is type a keyword into Trend Track. So for example, let me say that I'm working on a supplement brand. I'm trying to figure out which angles are actually resonating with the buyers in that space right now. So I'd go ahead and type creatine in the top bar, and straight away I would be getting everything that mentions creatine across the store. So at the minute we're on shops and you can see hundreds of different things, but we're focusing on the ads in this specific scenario. There's tons of good use cases as well, but we'll come across to the top here and we'll search creatine in keywords. So shop keywords contain creatine. Now, the benefit of this, so at the minute we're getting everything, but the problem is there is actually too much data here. So this is the amount of results, 186,000 results. We want to condense this down into what's actually valuable. So we have over 180,000 results here. We want to condense this down into the real value. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set the CPMs to a realistic level for creatine, about $40 or so, and you can actually filter for only ads that have spent, let's say, over $1,000. So it's actually, for this kind of product, you've got a ton of conversions. So you can actually see the ads here. This has spent 6K. Okay, but you also you want to know, that one's been running for a while as well. You can also, you've got reach here, ad impressions, page reach. So you can also run how long the ad was actually running for. So we can just say, over 30 days. I'm just looking at the different ads here, and you can see examples of good ads. Now you can also set the language to English only as well. You can also do countries, of course, but you can actually find some real good ads here. Now look at these. So we've got this ad from Ancient and Brave. We've also got some ads from Neutronic as well. But the good part about this is obviously the ad creative is so important. But once you actually click on these ads specifically, you can see if it's a video ad, you can get the transcript, which is great. Obviously, you can download the video, but you can also see the landing page that it runs to as well, which is crucial when you're running ads, that the actual landing page aligns with the ad creative and the messaging is kind of, it's clean and it's a good handoff. The real benefit of this is you can scroll through all of these examples. We've got Overload here as well. I'm not going to mention the scandal of those guys, but they were definitely scaling ads big time because I spoke to the guys from Overload. But the benefit is you can ask them questions. Start asking the question when you're looking at these ads, not, is this a good idea? Does this look good? Is it a good creative? But what about this angle? Why are they saying this specific thing in the hook? Why is their messaging, this specific messaging, and how does that align with the landing page? And maybe a lot of the ads that you notice are following a similar kind of style. So you'll notice these styles from Overload that we're looking, they all look very similar. Yeah, so we've got a short form ad. You can just tell really by looking at this, it's going to be a short form ad. You scroll up to the top here. The first one that we saw was also a short form 14-second voiceover with text on screen. So you've already noticed there from a couple of different brands, ads that are a similar style. So first of all, you can take that style, but also change it for your exact angle. So basically box up your angle and your positioning in the marketplace in the same way that the winning ads are. And in the vice versa, one of the best ways to look at this as well is what are they missing? Is there, authority angles that they aren't trying? Is there organic UGC? A lot of the times you can find VSL styles, you can find industries that aren't doing a certain creative style, which is really powerful as well. Now, here's what I want to be clear about something. So finding an angle that the market has validated, spent tons of cash on, doesn't mean that you copy the ad. I just want to be super clear about that. It means that you understand what is working about that ad, the angle that's working, and you figure out how you can do that in a way that's native to your brand and your product specifically. Now, there's really a skill in being able to watch a winning ad, identify why it worked and the angles behind it, and separate that from like the actual, how it looks. So the format, the creator, the hook, the structure, those are the execution, the actual angle, the emotional trigger, the specific way that the problem's framed. That's the mechanism. That's what's actually driving the performance for that whole ad, and that brand as a whole will have its specific positioning. Once you can separate those two things, you can take a mechanism that the market's validated and build an entirely original execution around it. So you can take winning angles and you can try it in your different formats. So you can take formats and try it in different angles. And the brands that do this well don't look like they're copying anyone. Their ads feel fresh, but really they're built on a foundation of market and like validating signal, not just guessing. And you can do this with your own ads, and you should be doing this with your own ads away as well. The same way that you find something that works, a format that works, and then you try it with a new angle. Now, the reason most brands don't approach creative this way is that this way requires doing tons of research before production, and production feels like progress. Launching actually feels like you're doing something. Sitting down, analyzing spend data, doing your research from your niche, it feels super slow. But here's the maths on it. If you go into a testing cycle with 10 angles that you generate from a brainstorm and 2 of them land, you've spent the production cost and the testing budget for 8 losing angles to only find 2 winners. If you go in with 10 angles that you selected because the market has already validated the emotional territory, you still find some executions work better than others, but you're not testing whether the territory and what you're actually testing has demand. You already know that it does. You're just finding the best path through it. Now, I've seen this play out with almost every brand that we've worked with that's been stuck. The problem isn't always creative quality. It's not always the hook or the visuals. A lot of the time it's that they've been testing angles that the market was never going to reward. So they had no data, they were just spraying and praying, and they had no way of knowing that before they actually tested. So they had no way to do this research. The research step, understanding where the spend is concentrated in your niche, what emotional territories are consistently producing long running winners, that's what removes that guesswork and can give you that confidence. The same way that you do it in your own ad account. You want to be reverse engineering what's working in your actual ad account, so you start from a much stronger position when you're making ad creatives. Reverse engineering your ads, looking what's going on in the market as well. So if there's one thing that you want to take from this video, it's this: the market has already run the experiment you're about to spend money on, and you might have already run that experiment as well. Somewhere in your spend data or the spend data of your niche and what ads they're running is information about what works and what doesn't. The question is whether you read it before or after you actually spend your budget. Now, you should be doing both. You should be looking before and after. Now, TrendTrack's the tool that we use at my agency to read that data. We used to use other tools, but we use this specifically because it shows me where the real money is going, not just which ads happen to be running. So the link to try it is in the description. But if you want to see more on how we use competitive research, how we consolidate customer data together to build a full angle strategy, that's in the next video. So subscribe so you don't miss it. And if you're spending over $50,000 a month on meta ads and you want my team to do this research process for your brand, click the link below, book a creative planning call, and it's in the description as well. We'll go into your niche, we'll map out the different angles, and we'll show you exactly which emotional territory you should be testing into next. I'll see you in the next one.